Hi there, I'm Sam, and I'm from EngineerMyWorld.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my very first video on YouTube. Okay, that's a lie. The very first video for this channel. I have other channels, but my very first video for this channel. I am going to start off my channel content by taking the Udemy.com 100 Days of Python Challenge / Bootcamp. I'm going to be making a video for every single day of that bootcamp. Why, you ask? Because I want to help you learn Python very efficiently. The concepts, the applications, and the how-tos. Now, I've done the first day already, and that's what this video is. And it took me several hours to complete it. So if I can condense that into like 15 minutes or less, that is my goal. I also want to review the lessons for myself to really cement them into my memory, and I know that if I can teach it, then it will really help me memorize it for a long time. Also, I want to help you get the most out of the class for yourself, so if you're taking it, maybe this will be a nice review, or if you are going to take it, this might be a nice introduction, or if you're not gonna take it, maybe you could just watch this. But I don't mean it as a substitute, because you should definitely take the class for yourself. I think you'll learn a lot more if you go through it and do it all yourself, but I think this would be a nice supplement as well. So quickly, my background is engineering. I basically needed to know Python to complete my degree, which is in aerospace engineering and mathematics. It's a bachelor's degree. I definitely wouldn't have survived if I hadn't have known Python. So I wanted to take this course for myself as well to expand my knowledge and make me a more marketable engineer, add to the resume. And also because EngineerMyWorld.com is actually built in Python. Python is its backend. So the more I can learn, the more I can do, and then the more I can give through the site. So definitely check out the site for yourself. Maybe there's some apps on there that can help you in your education, for your projects, or for just your fun. And if you like this video and you want to learn more through these courses, or through these video lessons, please subscribe to my channel. I really want to build a super intelligent genius community here, and just a community of people who take science seriously and want to learn more about the world through math and science. So subscribe to this channel. Let's get into the course. So here's how to take the course. You got to go to udemy.com to get the course. It's about $100, but if you use a VPN like I did, or you go incognito, or you just get it at the right time, or use one of the coupons that kind of shows up if you don't have an account, you could get it for a lot less, like up to 85% discount. I got it for $14.67, and I'm pretty sour about it since like the next day it went down to $11.99, but I guess I'll deal with that difference. To take the course, you'll need to sign up for udemy.com, obviously, and the course is taught by Angela Yu, and she basically has a lot of video lectures in a series that are actually very not lecture-y. They're really precise and to the point, which is great, and you follow along and you do what she does. There's also a lot of resources that you can download, like function definitions, that I think will be useful for a long time. You also need to sign up for an account at a website called Riplet.com, and that lets you copy the code that is uploaded from the professor and use it for yourself and script out or code your own code and see what it does, its output to write programs. So that's what you're looking at right now. You're seeing the Replit.com console, and on the left is the script where you type out your code, and on the right is the output. So if I look at this first line of code, or line 5 where it says have a good day, I can make it output something by taking out the comment, putting that message in quotes, and then putting a parenthesis to close the end of the print statement, and click run, and it'll say have a good day. So that's how the structure of the class is. Sorry for the really long introduction, but I have to say all this for the first video. Let's get into the actual course. Alright, the course starts off with a quiz or an assessment that's 10 questions, and it's I don't think any of this is graded, especially this. This is just to see where you're at, to give you some idea of where you're going to. And it's 10 questions, and it's not too hard if you've used Python before. I got an 8 out of 10, and the 2 questions I honestly didn't know the answer to. And you oftentimes can just type up the code for yourself and see what the output is if you don't know the answer, and you'll get the answer and then answer the question correctly. There were a couple hard questions in there, so they're going to require some mental processing because they're conceptual. So I hope you have a good CPU up here to figure those out, and wherever you're at now, the more you'll code, you'll definitely get better. Okay, so the first thing you're taught is how to output something that you want to say, like a statement. And the statement is just a string of characters, or a character string. So in order to output that string, you have to use the print function. So it's print, and then the parentheses, and within the parentheses you're going to use the quotation marks. You can use double quotes or single quotes, and sometimes you'll have to use both depending on what you want to say, which is what we'll cover later. But within these parentheses you can just type what she types, which is hello world, exclamation mark, and run. So it'll say have a nice day and hello world, and that is the print statement. So now we're going to add some complexity. So let's say we would like to print the print statement. In other words, we would like to have the output show the print statement. This is when we're going to have to resort to single quotes, and you can use double and single quotes interchangeably as long as you're consistent. So I like to think of this process as an equation, which is basically what it is. So I want to start from the inside of the equation going out, and that just helps me mentally digest what I'm doing. So let's say I would like to print the word hi. So I'm going to type out hi, and then I'm going to put that in double quotes, and then I'm going to print everything inside these double quotes, and it should just say hi right here. Now what if I want to print this entire print statement? This is where I will resort to single quotes. So I'll do print parentheses single quotes, and then close the parenthesis and click run. So it'll print everything between here. So I'm actually printing the print statement, and that's how you print. That's how you use a function to print a statement with a function in it. Okay, I hope you're having fun so far, because I honestly am. This is a lot of fun going through coding and everything. We're gonna go to the next thing, and that is the ability to move statements to the next line. So I'm gonna use the example hi again, and I'll put that in a print. But if I want to say hi 3 times, I could say hi, 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 and I'll run it, and it puts it on the same line. If I want to separate them, I'm going to use the \n, and that will make the next hi go to the next line. So let's get into a new thing, concatenation. And concatenation is putting things together, and I like to think of it as addition, because that's basically what it is. So let's say we have the statement hi there. When you run it, it'll say hi there. Well, we want to concatenate them as separate strings. So we will be able to do that by closing this parenthesis, clicking the add button, and then making a new parenthesis. So you're basically adding this string to this string, and we'll click a run, and it'll say hi there. Now you notice there's no space there, so you're going to need to put the space somewhere. You can either do it here in the hi, click run, and it'll show up, or you could put it before the there and click run, and it'll still show up that way. Or what's super useful is you do another concatenation, add in space, and there you have the hi, which is a string, plus the space, which is a string, plus the there. Click a run, and it still works. Okay, we're starting to get into some pretty exciting stuff. So this next exercise has you correct some lines of code. And I'm going to copy and paste the code into the session here. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code that we need to correct. Each of them may have a different problem, but the end result is supposed to be this output. So here we go. I'm going to run the code and it should not work. See all these errors right here? So we're going to have to correct this line by line. And just to let you know, it will correct things depending on the IDE that you're using. I did one of my final projects in Spider IDE. I did a lot of other work in Jupyter, and I did a lot of other work in PyCharm. So some of these let you progress line by line, only correcting the code it doesn't correct the code, it tells you what's wrong. It bugs the code line by line. This one on here that we're using right now, Replit, kind of like doesn't let anything run unless everything is right, which is kind of annoying. So I wouldn't recommend using this for like final projects or like serious work, but it's a great learning environment to use. So we're going to correct this line by line. So looking at the first line, based on the rules we've learned before, it looks like it's just missing this double quote. So I'm going to put that in. When I run it, it'll be right, but it won't let me run it. But it'll give me a different error because it goes to the next line of code. This next one, let's look at it. It has the double quote here. I think it just to change this into a single quote because it's within the larger quote. So we'll do that. We'll run it. Still has some kind of error, so we're gonna move to the next line. There's a space here. We need to move it to the first line so there isn't an indent. We'll run it again. Different code error. So we're going to go to the next line. And there's 2 parentheses here to open it. And there should be another parenthesis here to close it. So we're going to put the parenthesis in, and then we're going to run it. And look, everything's working correctly. So we have corrected it correctly. Hello there. Hello there. Sorry, I apologize for that. It is a couple of days later. I had to resume this another day, so I'm gonna get back to it right now. Thanks for bearing with me. I changed my clothes because it's 3 days later. So I'm looking at the last thing I did right here when we corrected these lines of code, and I realized, it was like 5 a.m. when I was doing this, so maybe 4 a.m., something like that, 3 a.m. I don't remember, something really early. And so I noticed one of them could be corrected differently and one of them could be corrected better. So if we look at line 6, this could be corrected differently. I'm going to copy onto line 10, where it would still work the same if you change the double quotes to single quotes and the single quotes to double quotes. So I'm going to change those double quotes to single quotes and the single quotes to double quotes. And there we go. That will run just the same. It'll work right here as we did it before and work here just the same. And then the second thing is on line 8, this, when I was looking at it, I noticed you could add another, parenthesis, but what would be better and simpler is instead of adding another parenthesis to compensate, you can just delete a parenthesis. And that's a better way to correct it because it's simpler. Okay, so now we're going to learn the length function, the input function, and nesting. And we're going to do all of that in just a couple lines of code. So the length function, first of all, computes the length of something. And that something is a data set. So a word is actually just a data set because it's a string of characters. So if we want to know the length of the word 5, we would use the length function. We can count on one hand that the word 5 consists of 4 characters. So we'll do len and then parentheses, and within the parentheses we're going to type out that string of 5. And when we click enter, it will say 4 because 5 is 4 characters long. So if we want to do that in the script, we can do it the exact same way. we'll click run, but it doesn't show up in the console, you notice. And it doesn't show up because we haven't actually told it to print anything. So the console is really useful for like back of the envelope calculations when you just want to figure out the answer to something pretty quickly. You can type it out and it'll give you, boom, the answer right away. Scripts need a print statement in contrast, but scripts are also good because you can run lots of lines of code sequentially, and in the console you cannot. And this is pretty much the same no matter what IDE you use, which is an integrated development environment. Yeah, and so they all have differences, but that's one of the common things is the script and the console. So we're gonna have to use the print statement. In order to print the length of 5, you're going to have to use nesting. So the length function is nested within the print function. Think of it like Russian nesting dolls. The length is nested within print. So when you click run, it'll actually now tell you 4, which is amazing. And this will work now for whatever you replace 5 with. Like we can count to 4, but can we count supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? I don't want to count that, so I'm gonna paste it since I copied it, and we're gonna compute the length of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and then print it. Run. The answer is 34. I didn't even know that. I honestly didn't even know that, but now I know that. Now you know that, and now you know that you can use length to compute anything. Now we're going to introduce the input function. So let's say we actually don't have a specific word that we want to know the length of. Let's just ask the user instead. Like we're going to print to the console, we're going to output to the console a question. The question is going to be, what is the length of this word that you input? But in short, I'm just going to type in word because I don't want to write the whole thing. So this means input a word and we'll calculate the length of it. So we'll do input, click run. It'll ask you a word and it'll actually let the user type in a word. And then it's going to store that value, 5, as a floating value in the input function. So when I click enter, nothing happens because I haven't told anything to happen other than collecting that value. Now we would like to compute the length of whatever that user inputs. So we're going to nest input inside the length function, len, in parentheses. When we click run, it'll ask you, oh sorry, I need another parenthesis. It'll ask you word and you'll input 5 and it will store the value 5 in the input statement as a floating value, and then it'll compute the length. Well, again, we haven't asked it or made it actually print anything. So we're gonna have to use another nest. We're gonna put this whole thing in a print function. Now it'll ask the user that question. It'll store it in the input function, and then it'll compute the length of it, and then it'll print it. So this is 3 nests, 5, and there we go. The answer is 4. So that means no matter what word we input, it will tell us the answer for. Let's think of a word that is 5 characters long. Let's see, how about 3? That's 5. So 5. Great. There's another way to do this, is storing this value in a variable. And variables are really useful if you want to keep that value handy to be used another time. So right now that value is just being outputted immediately, but if you want to keep that value around for a while, you could get rid of the print statement, and then you can store the length of whatever they input in a variable. And we're going to name the variable word length, right? Just made that up, equals. So the word length is going to be equal to the length of what the user inputs asking that word. You're going to click run, and it'll ask again word, and you'll put 5. And then now you don't need to nest the print, everything inside a print statement. Now you can just print that variable as long as you spell it correctly. Run. We're going to click, let's try 3 again. The answer will be 5. Okay, the next bit is just a little bit of practice. So the first thing it wants us to do is print the name of whatever the user enters. So we're going to make a variable, and for simplicity we're going to name that variable name, because we're going to ask the user to input their name. So what is your name, yo? Alright, and then we're going to print the variable name, and the variable stores the value of what is inputted upon getting that question. So we're going to click run, and I'm going to say my name is Sam. You know, I'm not a liar. I'm going to tell them my real name, you know, Sam. And it's going to print that name. I'm just going to add a space here to give a space at the end of the question. There we go. Next thing to ask is actually just a direct input. Let's say we want to decide what name is going to be used here. When we use the variable name again, it will overwrite what's been previously saved in that variable. So let's just say Jack Reacher. And we do print name. So it'll ask us the name just as it did before, but then after it will compute, it will store the Jack Reacher in the name, overriding whatever I input and then printing it. So it should say Sam, and then it'll say Jack Reacher. There we go, Sam and Jack Reacher. You know, we're peas in a pod. You know, he and I go way back. Okay, and okay, so the next thing we got to do is, looks like, input the name on the next line, and then compute the length of that name, then print that length. And we'll do that in the script. So we're going to delete that because we don't need that anymore. So we want to ask the person their name and compute the length first of all. So we're going to click name again. We're going to ask them, what is your name? And we want to ask them on the next line, so we'll use \n. Let's include the question mark. I'm not an English major, but this is meant to be simple for the user. So what is your name? Question mark. And it goes to the next line because we use \n. And now I can say Sam. So that works. We're going to use the next line now. We want to compute the length of that name, so we're going to use the length function. len, and we just need to compute the length of the variable now, because that's where Sam is stored. Sam. Cool. And then, oh, we want to store that in a variable actually. So we want to store the length of that name in a variable. So let's use the variable, let's just call it length. We can call it whatever we want, but let's use length for simplicity so we know what the code is doing. The length variable is equal to the length of that name. So run, and we're going to say Sam, and it'll do the same on the console, but it's actually now storing this floating value in a variable. Now we want to print the length. So we're going to do print the variable. Run, and what is your name? I can't believe I got away with that spelling mistake and you didn't correct me. What the heck? Let's change it now. What is your name? Let's click Sam, and it should say 3. Now what is your name again? Jack, it'll say 4. What is your name again? Bob, it'll say 3. Whatever the length of whatever it is you input, regardless of whether it's a name or not, it'll tell you the length of it. The message you put in the input statement just helps the user figure out what they're supposed to enter. Alright, the next thing is actually a challenge. It wants us to swap the values of variables. So in the first line, line 8, it asks for the input of A stored in the A variable, and then it asks us the input of B, and it stores that in a variable. And at the end of the code, it's going to print those values concatenated, as you can see. So the challenge is to swap the value, so whatever you input in A shows up in B, and whatever you input in B shows up in A. And if you want, you can pause the video and try to figure it out for yourself. I'm going to give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now I'm going to code the answer. So the simplest way to do this that I thought of was to make a new variable as a temporary variable to hold the value of one of the variables that you lock in when you input the answer. So we're going to make that variable C. So we're going to make C equal to A. So whatever you input in A carries over to C. And then we're going to put in a comment, which you can do by inputting the # or the hashtag temporary variable. This comment allows someone else to read your code and know what's going on, plus you, so you can remember what's going on. And then we're going to swap the variables. So we're going to say swap, and then we're going to make A, whatever they input in A, equal to B, and that's your first swap. And then using the temporary variable, we're going to make B equal to C. This wouldn't work without the temporary variable because then you just end up overriding something that the user inputted. So let's click run, and we'll make A 5 and then B 6. So now it should say A is equal to 6 and B is equal to 5. And it works. Use a temporary variable when you want to swap two values. The next exercise is a short one, and it just wants us to ask the user for their name, and the output will be hello in addition to whatever that user inputs. So let's start with the comment section that was given. We'll put it right there, copy and paste. Input will get the user input in the console, and then the print will print the word hello and the user input. So we want a user input, so we're going to put input. We're going to say, what is your name? Click run, and it asks the name. Great. Let's put a space after that to let the user get a space between their input and the question. And then we want to put that after a hello, which is going to show up when we output it. So we're gonna need to use concatenation for this. So we're gonna put plus to concatenate, and we're going to put hello. And we also want a space after hello because it's an English sentence, and we want the computer to print all of this. So we're gonna put that inside a print statement. So it should ask the user's name with a space given, and then it'll print out hello that person. So click run. My name is going to be Darth Vader, so it'll say hello Darth Vader. Okay, next thing. Wow, we have learned so much, and we're finally ready to put it all together. This is the final project for day 1 of this course, and it is a band name generator. Basically what it does is it asks the user to input their city and their pet's name, and it's going to combine them into the band name. So let's just follow the comments that are given in the course as a guide to making our program. So first it wants us to create a greeting for the program. So let's just say welcome to the Matrix. Okay, welcome to the Matrix. Run. You can totally write 100 lines of code and then click run, but there's something going to be wrong. There's going to be something wrong, so it's going to be really hard to figure it out if you have 100 lines of code. So I like to just write like 1 or 2 lines of code and then run it and correct it and go step by step. So let's go to number 2. Ask the user for the city they grew up in. So let's call a variable city, and we'll do an input, and we'll say, what is your city? I just thought of that one Logan Paul video where he's like, what is that? England is my city? I don't like that song. Let's put a \n in there because number 5, I wish it was earlier, but number 5 says to make sure the input cursor shows on a new line. So we're going to click run. It's going to say, welcome to the Matrix, what is your city? And on a new line, you input your answer, which for me will be Seattle is my city. Number 3, ask the user for the name of a pet. So let's just make a variable called pet, and let's say input what is your pet's name, right? With a \n for the new line. Run. Welcome to the matrix. What is your city? Seattle. What is your pet's name? And if you notice, it didn't actually ask me for the name of the pet until I answered the last question, because scripts usually, except for some circumstances which are like more advanced, run from top to bottom. So now that I answered with Seattle, it'll ask me the next question. What is your pet's name? And my pet's name is Batman. Cool, so those questions work good. Number 4, combine the name of their city and pet and show them their band name. So we're gonna do this in 2 steps. For me, it's just easier to think about if I make a new variable, and I'm going to call it combo because I want to combine the city and the pet. So we're going to use concatenation. We're going to use city plus pet. Wow, not complicated at all, except for there's no space there, so it's going to be like Seattle Batman. So I want to put a space in there, so I'm going to put plus quotes space for a string, the space plus pet. So now it'll say Seattle Batman. So I need to run it first to activate that new line of code, and I'm going to say Seattle and then Batman, and I haven't told it to print anything yet, so I'm going to have to enter it manually. I'm going to click combo and it should say Seattle Batman. Wonderful. And now the guidance says to show them their band name. So we want to have a print statement so that they don't have to type in combo, because the user won't have any idea when you're writing these codes to be used elsewhere. The user doesn't have any idea what the variables are, so they won't be able to input the variable combo. So they have to rely on you to make it easy for them to interface with your code. So we're going to use a print statement. Print, we want to print the band name, and we want to tell them what their band name is. So we're going to say your band name is, and now we're going to have to use concatenation again. We're going to need the single quotes. You could use single quotes or double quotes here as long as you're consistent. So I want it to print a string saying your band name is, and within that string I want it to actually print out the double quotes like a sentence, like in the sentence. So I want it to actually print this, and then we're going to close the print statement, and then we're going to concatenate that variable combo, and then we're going to begin the print statement again, or continue it, and then we're going to, in that string, put in the closing double quotes and the exclamation mark, because we are so excited to have a band name. You know, we're going on tour. And then we're gonna close the print statement, and that should work out just fine. Click run, and let's do this. Welcome to the Matrix. What is your city? Seattle. What is your pet's name? What did I say? Batman? Batman. Your band name is Seattle Batman, and we have made the band name generator and finished day 1. Welcome to the end of the video. We have just finished the first day of Udemy's 100 Days of Python Bootcamp. Don't go anywhere just yet because I have bloopers coming up, but I just wanted to say before we get to the bloopers and outtakes that I'm thankful that you watched this video to the end. I really hope you got a lot out of this video. Thank you for sticking with me. Please subscribe to this channel if you want to know anything about coding, engineering, or science, because I'm going to be here with you through the thick and thin to share my knowledge in engineering and technology and science. I want us to master science. So subscribe to this channel to get more videos just like this, and like this video if you found it helpful. And I am looking forward to seeing you in the next video, day 2. I'm Sam. I'm logging off. Have a good day. Hey there, this is Sam from EngineerMyWorld.com, and I'm coming to you today. So let's see if all the settings are there. We would see if all the settings are there, and I might even scoot this down a bit. Much better. Wakanda forever. Alright, so next we're
I'm Batman. Where is she?
I'm sorry. I am so.
Where is she?
I'm sorry. I should stop now.
I'm Batman.